Hey, I'm Liz from No Trace. Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how to sew a very simple purse that has a drawstring closure. The purse also has an adjustable strap and there is an option to add pockets. I have a downloadable PDF sewing pattern version of this project with a bunch of variations in my shop. So if you're interested, just click the link underneath this video to snag it, and otherwise let's jump in. As always, all of the measurements for the materials that you need are in the description box below this video, so just click underneath to snag the measurements. This bag comes together with 2 pieces of fabric for the outside and 2 pieces of fabric for the inside, and you have an option of adding a pocket on the outside and on the inside. You're also going to want a 1-inch strap that is anywhere from 50 to 60 inches long, depending on your height. And I am linking to my strap making tutorial right here if you want to make your own. It's very simple. You're also going to want some hardware for this purse, including 2 1-inch D-rings and 1 1-inch slider bar. I have a link in the description box below this video if you want to buy these online, but your local craft store probably has these also. And you need about 48 inches of cording for the drawstring piece of your bag. You could also use ribbon, or you could make a thin piece of strap. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make the casings for the drawstring with these 2 long thin pieces. So I'm going to flip them wrong sides up, and then I am going to be folding over the short ends about a little less than a 1/2 inch, and then folding it over again. And then I'm going to be top stitching these little mini hems in place at the machine. All right, at the machine here, I am going to just sew straight down this little piece, and I'm not even going to backstitch. Now that the casings are sewn on the short ends, I'm going to fold them in half lengthwise with the wrong sides together. And then I'm going to fold them in half the other way. So now they are half as long. And I am just going to press that center with my fingers to make a little crease that you probably can't see, but there is a little crease at the middle. I'll put a pin there so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, so I have a pin at the center of the casing. Now I want to find the center of the outer panel of fabric. So I'm going to do the same thing where I fold it in half and just push with my fingers to create a crease. And then I want to line up the center of the casing with the center of the outside panel. So crease to crease. And I'm just going to pin them together. And now I'm going to add a pin on the other side of the casing so it stays on the outer panel of the bag, and onto this side of the casing. And I have pinned the casing onto both of my outer panels. So now I'm going to sew along this top edge with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, at the machine now, I am going to sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I am going to backstitch at the beginning and the end of each of my casings so that they are super secure. Okay, I've sewed the casings on to the top edge. Now it's time to put the 2 outer pieces together. And if you decide to add a pocket, you're going to want to get that in place right now as well. It's a super simple addition, and I show you how in all of my other purse videos, which are linked in the description box below this video, so check that out. You want to make sure that the bottom edge of your pocket is lined up with the bottom edge of one of your outer panels. Then get the other outer panel and place it on top of the pocket with the right sides together. And then we're going to go ahead and line everything up. And then I am going to pin around the 4 sides to hold everything together. If you want to add a custom tag in between the layers, you're going to want to do that now. I am putting one of my little no trace tags about 4 inches from the top edge. This is totally optional, just a fun little addition. And if you want to get some of your own custom tags printed, I have a link down below for the Etsy shop I use. They make 100% organic cotton tags. I've also pinned up the inner layers on 4 sides, so now it's time to sew. All right, I'm going to use a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and I'm going to start off with a back stitch at the beginning, and then I'm just going to go around 3 sides of the liner fabric and the outer fabric. Both the inner layers and the outer layers are sewn together, so in the next step, I am going to be marking a 1-inch square on the bottom corners. I'm going to take a quilting ruler and place a 1-inch square on the seam, and then I'm going to trace it out with a chalk or pencil, or you could even use a pen. And I'm just going to repeat that for all 4 bottom corners. Now that I've finished marking out the 1-inch squares, I am going to go ahead and cut them all out. And of course, I am going to save my little scraps. I actually have a nice little pile of these guys going, and they will be turned into something fun very soon. Once the corners are cut out, I am going to go inside the bag and open it up and kind of fluff it out down here to create a little depth at the bottom of the bag. And I want to line up the seam here on both sides, and then I am going to put a clip to hold it together. Now, if you added any pockets to your bag, you want to make sure that the extra pocket fabric is consistent so that it's on the same side of your bag. Otherwise, your pocket will have a funny twist and you won't get nice, tidy, boxed corners. Okay, everything is clipped. Time to sew. I'm going to be sewing straight across this newly cut edge with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'm going to take my clip off and get this under my presser foot. And I'm definitely going to back stitch at the start and the stop of this seam. And I'm going to repeat that for all 4 corners. All right, all 4 corners are sewn on my outer and inner fabric. Now I'm going to take my 3x4 pieces and turn them into the little straps that are going to hold the D-ring on the side. All you need to do is flip your fabric wrong side up, and then you want to fold it in half so that it's now still 3 inches tall, but only 2 inches wide. Then open it up and bring the raw edges in towards that center crease and press. And then fold the whole thing up and press once more so that now it's 1 inch wide, but it's still 3 inches tall. Now that they're both ironed, I am going to top stitch along the long edges with about 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'll show you how I do my top stitching just in case you haven't done that before. So I'm just sewing along this edge about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge on both sides of these little D-ring straps. Okay, the top stitching is done on each of these little straps. So now I am going to be putting the D-ring onto one D-ring onto each of these, and then I'm going to fold it in half, and then I'm going to sew right along this edge. I'm going to actually use my zipper foot, and I'm going to sew 3 rows of stitches to secure the D-ring in place. Here's my zipper foot. It's just a bit more narrow than my standard presser foot, so it lets me sew closer to hardware like zippers, or in this case, the D-ring. And I'm actually going to start my stitches a little bit away from the edge because sometimes my Juki tries to eat the very edge of my strap. I don't know why. You could also try, if that happens to you, you could add a little piece of fabric, a little scrap fabric to the back of your presser foot, and that can help too. And sewing this way, I think this is called chain sewing, also helps avoid that your fabric getting kind of chewed up down in there. So I'm just going to go straight down and reverse. And then I'll do that one more row just across the second strap. Okay, my D-rings are both sewn in place. Now it's time to put all the pieces together. We are close to the end of this purse. It is actually a really fast project, especially if you skip the pockets, although the pockets are super fast addition. Anyhow, I am going to turn my liner fabric right side out, and I did add a pocket. Just make sure if you added one that it is on the correct side. You could tell if it's not because this boxed corner will look kind of wonky. Okay, and I am going to put my liner fabric into my outer fabric. And my outer fabric also has a pocket. I want the pockets to be on opposite sides from each other so that they're not back to back in my purse. And now that the liner fabric is inside the outer fabric and the right sides are together, I am going to line the inner and outer fabric. I'm going to line them up together at the side seams. And I like to kind of open up my side seams, and then I can line them up real nice. So they're just right along one another, just touching each other. And then I'm not going to pin right at the side because I want to get my D-ring strap right there. So I'm going to pin about 1 inch away from the side and 1 inch away from the side seam here. So this hopefully is a better view for you to see. I've got pins along the side of my side seam. Now I'm going to take my D-ring and I'm going to put it so that the hardware is going down towards the bottom of the bag. And I'm going to slide it right between my layers. And then I'm going to either pin or clip it in place. And now that this side is all set up, I'm going to flip the bag around and repeat those steps on this side seam. Okay, both of the sides are pinned, and I added another couple of pins to the top edge. So now it's time to sew all around this top edge, but I'm going to leave an opening of 3 or 4 inches so I can turn my bag right side out. All right, I have my standard presser foot back in place, and I'm going to start off somewhere near the middle, do a little back stitch here, and then I'm going to go around the bag. And at the straps, I am going to reinforce them. So I'm going to sew over the straps with 3 rows of stitches so that they are super secure. Okay, that seam along the top edge is finished. So now it's time to birth the bag through the opening that we left, which just means I am going to pull the liner fabric out, right side out, and the outer fabric right side out. Now I'm going to push the liner fabric inside, and I'm going to take this to my ironing board, and I'm going to iron around the top edge of the bag so that it lays nice and flat. I'm also going to take care to iron the opening so it's nice and flat as well. All right. Now that the top edge is ironed, I am going to sew all the way around it, about 1/8 or so inch away from the folded edge, not the casing, but where the casing meets the bag. I'm going to just sew all the way around. And at the opening, I want to make sure that I sew onto both of the layers. And the top stitching is finished. The bag is almost done. Next, I'm going to take one piece of cotton cording. This is about 24 inches. I am going to clip a safety pin onto the end, and then I am going to thread the cording into the casing all the way around. Once it's all the way through, I am going to tie these two ends together in a simple overhand knot. And then I am going to take the second piece of cording and do the same thing, but make the knot on the other end of the casing. Okay, the drawstring is in place. The very last step is to get our strap onto our bag, and I have a full tutorial that shows you how to sew an adjustable strap, so I am linking to that right here. I'm going to go ahead and go through those steps so that my strap is on my slider bar and then attached onto the D-rings. It's finished! I love it. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I have a downloadable sewing pattern for this purse and a whole bunch of other variations, so just click underneath the description box to snag your own.